You got to actually get in the top 10 the room to be in the conversation.
What's poppin', y'all? It's your boy. It is Guardy3. And I know it's a little weird. Normally we do this on Thursday, but you know what? It's 4th of July. People like to get out and celebrate, so we thought, why not bump it up to Tuesday? So, of course, off to my right, the greatest co-host I could ever ask for, it is Mo Betta. Mo, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Appreciate everybody joining us on a crazy Tuesday, talking some hoops. Let's get into it.
There. So, for anybody just tuning in or just listening, every week we like to start off by highlighting underrated players who have been undervalued and underappreciated and maybe lost in the course of time. So, Mo, I'll start off with you. Do you got an underrated player of the week this week?
You know what? I'm gonna salute a young man that just retired because I think he had an understated career, but he was impactful at the college level and at the NBA level. My underrated player this particular week is Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker, one of those guys that was terrific off the bounce, cross you up. He's got that jump step where he steps back. The hezzy, able to score over bigger players. I think he made an all-star team. He might have made 2 all-star teams. Multiple seasons, averaging over 20 points, 6 assists. Just a natural dynamite scorer who can also play make. I think and was a smaller guard. Kemba was around 6 feet, maybe 6'1" at best. Not a big guard, but he played bigger than his size. So I'm just wishing him well in retirement. But I think Kemba Walker had a very good career, a very good basketball career.
And if anybody doesn't remember Kemba Walker, you've definitely seen him in highlight reels when they're promoting the March Madness tournament. Cardiac Kemba step back for the win.
Right.
No, that's a great pick. Kemba Walker, he was always vastly underrated. He is such a great talent. Him and Big Al Jefferson kind of carrying those Hornets teams throughout the mid 2010s. Al Jefferson growing up was one of my favorite players, so I got the pleasure of watching a lot of Kemba Walker, ironically, by trying to watch more Al Jefferson. And, I was always amazed by him, so I really love the pick.
Man, Al Jefferson was super skilled. Probably couldn't jump over a phone book, but he had every move in the book on the block, like a very skilled offensive player. Like I remember Al Jefferson just giving anybody that guarded him one-on-one work.
No, that's what I loved about him, because growing up, I was infatuated with post play. So Al Jefferson became one of my favorites because he couldn't jump higher than anybody. He wasn't faster than anybody.
Right.
But he was so good at just scoring in a phone booth that it really didn't matter. Underrated player of the week this week. It's always so tough to do these because, let's be real, there's so many players. But, man, the hard part is you kind of stole mine. I was going to do Kemba. But I'll stick with the same theme because I think there's another all-time great for another franchise that doesn't get enough love when we're talking about all-time greats, and that's Dominique Wilkins. When we're talking about the all-time great small forwards, I don't hear Neek's name mentioned nearly enough. He was so good. He could ball out. He did a little bit of everything for the Hawks, and he was just overall was a superstar talent. He's the greatest talent in Hawks history, so you might find it weird to think that he's underrated, but on the flip side, I think when we're talking about all-time great small forwards, not many people mention Neek, so I'm going to go with Dominique Wilkins.
He gets lost in time a little bit, and I think that we almost forget that if you took Dominique Wilkins right now in today's NBA, with his rare athleticism, the ability to hang in the air, his scoring, I think he'd be a terrific scorer in this era. Now, he probably wouldn't shoot the 3 at a high level. Then again, like you said, if he came in this era, he would have shot more threes and he'd been more acclimated to it. But I'm just saying the raw talent that he was, Dominique does get lost in time. He was a terrific scorer, a good rebounder for a small forward, and he carried the Hawks for so many years. They had good supporting cast around him, but I don't think he ever had a great supporting cast.
No, absolutely, because they had that was the years when they had like Doc Rivers.
Right, right. I think he had Cliff Levingston and Antoine Carr, guys like that. Eddie Johnson, he had Spud Webb.
I think
He had
that
familiar names, but they were good players, but not great players.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Oh, let me not forget Kevin Willis.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Tree Rollins.
Oh, Tree too. I remember Kevin Willis because he's very unique. He's about 6'10", 6'11", terrific rebounder. But what was odd about Kevin Willis is he had the wingspan of like a 6'1" guard. He had like short arms. He had alligator arms.
No, that's fair. I know a few of these Hawks guys because I've always been kind of weird when I play NBA 2K, but one of my favorite all-time teams to ball out with is the Atlanta Hawks. So like, oh yeah, Kevin Willis, I absolutely dominate people in the post with him every game.
I can see that, no doubt. I can see that.
But let's get right into it. It's free agency. We had a couple of pretty sizable moves, I would say. So why don't we just start with the biggest one?
Let's do it.
Paul George is now a Philadelphia 76er, 4 years, $212 million max contract to form a big three with Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. So I guess this is almost a two-parter. Do you think that, what do you think of the move now? And do you think that Paul George will do enough to kind of keep Embiid healthy to the playoffs? Like, do you think this is the move that they needed? Like, what do you think of the move in general?
No, he fits perfectly with what Maxey and Embiid's skill sets and their strengths are. So I think that having a Paul George, it gives you a third option who's capable on a given night of being your number one option. I think Paul George alleviates pressure off of Joel Embiid. And maybe that might be the key if you're a Sixer fan. Don't worry about if Joel Embiid averages 34 points a game. Let's say he averages 26 points a game, but he's healthy come April, May, and June, because that's when it really matters. So I think it's a great move. Look, the goal ultimately is to win a title. The people who are not going to love the move, they're going to say, well, when is Embiid healthy? He's always hurt around the postseason. If they didn't add Paul George, Embiid could be hurt around the postseason. So to me, it's a terrific move for them. And they had to do something to try to close the gap with Boston. What is Boston's strength? They have depth, but their biggest strength is it's their two wings. Well, you get a Paul George, you're competitive, at least guarding one of those guys and matching up with one of those guys. You get a Joel Embiid at his dominant self, and he's going to give the Celtics problems as well. I still think the Celtics are the team to beat, but it's a big move for the Sixers. Here's the question I have for Sixer fans. Acquiring Paul George to go with Embiid and Maxey makes sense to me in every way on both sides of the floor. And you did also retain Kelly Oubre, who had a really good season for them last year. That's big. But what about the rest of the roster? Because when you tie up all your money in three players, they only have, I think, like 7 players under contract. So the Sixers have a lot of roster construction to do. And they did get Andre Drummond, which is big because I think Andre Drummond is one of, if not the best backup center in basketball. So they did some good things, but they've got a lot of work to do. I think it's a good move for them. Look, there is no move that could have been made in the Eastern Conference where you would have said, well, now they're better than the Celtics. Right now in the Eastern Conference, maybe even in the NBA, the Boston Celtics are the gold standard.
Yeah, that's fair. I think one issue that's going to be plague the 76ers is rebounding. I saw a lot of mock starting lineups, and you're running Kelly Oubre at power forward. Joel Embiid can only do so much, but if you run into a Twin Towers setup or some athletic freak like the Bucks come to town and Brooke boxes out Joel Embiid and you start letting Giannis loose on the glass against PG and Oubre, I think that could be an issue. But overall, I love the signing, and it's a perfect fit. Like, we can say a lot of things about Paul George, but he fits seamlessly in between Maxey and Embiid.
Agreed.
And at the end of the day, you want to maximize Joel Embiid's title window. He's still playing at an MVP level, and you absolutely want to try to maximize that. And I think Paul George goes a long way.
No, and look, here's the thing. If Paul George is great for them, if Embiid is healthy for them one time, I'm talking about one run, one playoff run where they all go into the postseason at full strength, and the Sixers win it all. No one's ever going to mention what Paul George made or his contract. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they win it all, it's money well spent. That's the whole point, right? To win a title. So if you're going all in, Paul George is a great fit for what the Sixers want. If you're looking at the bigger, broader landscape in the East, there's the Celtics, the Sixers, the Knicks, and the Bucks. Those are the four best teams in the East. Those are the four teams that I would call title contenders. There's going to be a lot of teams coming up in the rear that are playoff contenders. There's only four title contenders.
Speaking of the Knicks, I think we're in agreement that their next move has to be to trade Julius Randle, right?
I mean, you're talking to a guy that wanted him gone 2 years ago, so yeah.
Because I always joked about the Knicks that, because obviously we're like, well, what happens if Mitchell Robinson goes down? And I've always joked about Julius Randle, small ball center, here we go. But the way the roster is constructed, that is the reality. Like, if Robinson goes down, which he does every year for a solid 20, 25 games, it seems, you're looking at a lineup where Julius Randle's your center, and there's only so much your perimeter defense can do to keep team away from the basket. You're just going to start hemorrhaging points at the rim since you don't have a real center or size. So my question almost is, what kind of centers do you think that they should target? Because I think they should move Randle for a center. And who do you think would be a good fit in that situation?
I think what the Knicks do and how they play, you don't need a center that gives you 25 a night. What you need is a center that can protect the paint and end possessions by being a great rebounder. So I think they would be looking for a guy like Clint Capella give you a double-double, right? They're looking for that kind of guy. Or maybe you might pursue a trade and go after somebody like Jared. They're not going to get Jared Allen, but you're looking for the center that's a double-double guy that you don't have to run plays for on offense, but can protect the rim and end possessions with their rebounding on defense. They need that kind of center. Because you're right, Mitchell Robinson can be very good. The truth is, though, Hartenstein was better than Robinson in the bigger picture because Hartenstein could play in space. He could show and he could play in space. Mitchell Robinson can't play in space. Even when he's healthy, he's a walking foul. He's going to foul. And you can't leave him in games because unlike Hartenstein, he can't make free throws. So I think, never mind the injury history, he is a liability in any tight game. They need to go out. You have Julius Randle. He has value. He's had 2 seasons where I think he's made third team all NBA. He has value. You need to go out and I was wondering why they didn't pursue, even though he ended up with Washington, even though he's not a good defensive center. I think Jonas, because of his offense, could offset some things, but they didn't pursue that. And maybe it was about the money. I think you're right. You're not going to win if you're relying on Julius Randle to spend half his time at center because, one, he's not a rim protector. 2, even at his natural position, he's not a good defender. So I think on this team, the way they play, he's not going to be the ball dominant player that he was in the past. So I don't think his value is where it was before. If I'm them, I'm looking to go get a defensive-minded center that can protect the paint and rebound at a high level. And there's a few guys out there, but you're going to have to give up some value.
No, that's fair. I think that's surprising. Clint Capella sounds like the most realistic option at this point because that also is a marriage that needs to end. It's a Conwoo's time in Atlanta, and they kind of need to accept it at this point. So I like the Capella idea. and Julius Randle can go over and ball out with Atlanta since they're seemingly going to tread water this year, which, of course, kind of lead us right into the next one of the other big moves of the offseason. DeJounte Murray's gone. He's a New Orleans Pelican. Larry Nance is now an Atlanta Hawk. So I got to ask, what's Atlanta doing?
I don't know, because I get that you want to break up Murray and Trae Young because obviously that pairing didn't really work. But when I'm looking back at the players they're getting back, and this isn't a knock, I think Larry Nance has proven throughout his career he's a good, solid rotation player. But Atlanta's acquiring a bunch of players that don't seem like part of their future. I don't know, and I don't see the direction of the franchise. You see what they did with the number 1 pick. He has potential, but I don't think he's going to have an immediate impact on the Atlanta Hawks right away. I'm looking at Jalen Johnson, who I do think Jalen Johnson's very talented, very athletic. I like him, but I'm looking at their overall roster construction. I don't know what their identity is. And the truth is, you know this, as long as Trae Young remains your biggest star, then by default, your identity is they're going to set a bunch of high ball screens and let Trae Young come off of those and create, attack, or shoot. And that style of play has a ceiling. They've already reached it. They're not going to get better. They're a franchise right now that's descending and they're lost. I know Trae Young is the biggest star in Atlanta since Dominique Wilkins, but your franchise is a mediocre franchise at best. To me, I'd be moving Trae Young, not because I don't think he's still a star, but because I think that he's one of those kind of stars, Brett, that he makes you just good enough to where you either miss or barely make the playoffs, but not bad enough, not consistently to where you're going to be in the lottery. You're not going to improve in the Trae Young era. But I think his value, he still has value. Move him. Get some more picks. I think Atlanta's trying to do one of those in-between rebuilds where they think they can tweak everything and then be relevant again. And I don't think that's going to work. I think you have to just suck it up and do a full-on blow it up and start fresh. And they're hesitant to do that. And I get it. They still want to have the star power of a Trae Young. You can have that, but if he's your best player, you're a team with no direction.
And I think the hard part about trying to blow it up this year, and this almost really limits their trade flexibility, because your best option is to try to send Trae Young to the Spurs. It's been talked about at length. And the reason I say that is because it's really simple. You can blow it up, but the Spurs have your 2025 first, and I think they're 2027 first.
Right.
So if I'm trading Trae Young, I think that's a great idea because I totally agree with you, but you have to find a way to get the Spurs involved and find a way to get your picks back, because if you don't have your picks at that point, you might as well, I guess, keep Trae Young and try to win as many games as you can, because you don't really have a future in the lottery. You can't join the Cooper Flag sweepstakes.
Right.
And trading Trae Young anywhere else, you're just going to end up with a bunch of contender and mid firsts.
And maybe that's the plan. They're looking around at the landscape and saying, you know what? We're not going to get a really big free agent to come here. There's no blockbuster trade to be made. You keep Trae Young and you hope you hit on your draft picks. You hope the guy that you picked, number one, not only develops fast, but he's an impact player right away. I'm not saying he has to be a star, but immediately he has an impact on your roster by being in the regular rotation right away. That would be a positive. If you can get another big season and a healthy season from Jalen Johnson, that would be a positive. If Okongwu going forward is going to be the center, I expect him to be no less than a better version of Clint Capella, a more athletic version, if you will. But I think you have to move on, like you said, from guys like Capella to start this next iteration of what the Hawks are going to be. You're right. Look, it's easy for you and I to say move Trae Young. It's a lot harder if you're not going to get back the value that you think you need. And he's still only 26 years old. So could Trae Young change his game to a degree and be more, I guess, team oriented? Instead of averaging 25 points a game, could he average 20 points a game and 10 assists and shoot a higher percentage? He could. He absolutely could. And I actually thought that he would under the kind of coach that Quinn Snyder is. But so far under Quinn Snyder, he's been the same player he was under Nate McMillan.
And I think that's just probably something at this point we have to accept with Trae Young, that this is just who he is. I don't see any significant changes coming for Trae Young. I think the best that he could do is learn how to play off the ball more and learn how to impact the passing lanes more. But I think the version you're seeing now of Trae Young is just going to be Trae Young. And that's always going to have value. Like anytime you're able to take a bad offense and kind of lift it up to respectable value, like floor raising will always have value. But he's one of those guys that if I pair him with multiple other superstars, can he raise my ceiling? And I don't think he can. So
right.
Overall, he's going to be that guy who always gets money on non-playoff teams, and that's okay. That is okay. And of course, on the flip side, for the Pelicans, does DeJounte Murray move the needle for you for the Pelicans?
I think he makes their not just their floor spacing more balanced. I think DeJounte Murray takes CJ off the ball. And I think CJ's better when he can come off a pin down or even a brush screen to where he can catch and fire or catch an attack. CJ can play point, but he's not a natural point guard. I think Murray's more of a point guard than he is. So I think just taking him off the ball will make him more effective and make him more efficient. I also think, look, ultimately, what they do with DeJounte Murray won't determine the Pelicans' fate. What they do with Brandon Ingram will determine the Pelicans' fate.
I agree with that 100% because as the roster is constructed right now, DeJounte Murray is nice, but I don't think he moves the needle. So I think there's more moves that need to be made. And the only reason I say that is I know the Pelicans, they'll be tempted to try to run a lineup with DeJounte, CJ, Ingram, Zion, and whatever center that you can muster up on the free agent market. But the issue is, if you try to run DeJounte with those three, unless you get a really elite defensive center on the market, you're running DeJounte, who in Atlanta his defense slips. So unless he finds this something closer to what he was in San Antonio, you're running 3, maybe even 4 just bad defenders out there at the same time. So it would be a lineup that would have to outscore everybody. Like if you want to maximize the Pelican starting lineup, Ingram or CJ McCollum have to go to the bench. I think Herb Jones or Trey Murphy have to be out there with the starters.
I would agree with that. I think I would have Trey Murphy and Herb Jones starting. So I don't disagree with that at all. Look, bringing CJ off gives you more firepower coming off the bench. It gives you a guy that can give you 16 to 20 a night. And remember, CJ is 33, 34 years old. So maybe he comes out fresher that way and he's stronger at the close of games.
No, I agree. And that's that's why I think of Brandon. If you're going to trade Brandon Ingram, you got to do it soon. Because it normally doesn't work well when you're trading somebody just before training camp, because then you're bringing in a new piece that doesn't know the system, and that's less time to get acclimated. So overall, I think the Pelicans' way to success, it's going to be through Murphy and Herb Jones because they're going to need that defense to balance out the firepower.
Right.
And if DeJounte can find something resembling his San Antonio defense or get at least closer to that level, then all of a sudden this looks like a really fun two-way team.
Oh, I like that a lot. If you got DeJounte Murray, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy's very capable. Look, if Trey Murphy can stay healthy, you're talking about a guy who can play defense at a high level, but can also drop 20 on a given night. He also has more range than Brandon Ingram. So, look, I think Brandon Ingram has value. In no way am I saying he's not a talent. But I think what we've realized, at least in his stint with the Pelicans, is I think Brandon Ingram, Brett, is closer to being a 3 than he is a 2, right? Yeah. I think he could play in the role of a number 2, but I think he could be an elite number 3. I think that would be the best fit for him.
I know there were rumors about him getting. I think the latest rumor has him going to the Kings, and there's rumors that they're going to get Keegan Murray back in return.
I don't think that changes anything. Like, is Brandon Ingram better than Keegan Murray? Yes, he is. But I'm talking about the entirety and the makeup of the Kings. Everything you do offensively is through Fox and Sabonis. The problem I have with the Kings is they don't stop anybody. They can't get stops when they need to get stops. And that's not just any one player. Fox, he tries to compete on defense, but he's not a good defensive player. Same with Sabonis. Not competes, but not a good defender. They don't have a lot of great defenders or good defenders on that team. And I think when you look at their offense, Brandon Ingram would give you a third guy who's a reliable. You can book him for 20 plus points, but he's also going to give you another guy that doesn't play defense. He's also going to give you another guy that if you're in a physical series, Brandon Ingram's not going to play well. He struggled against Oklahoma City, who I would not call them a physical team. Lou Dort is a physical player, but they're not a physical team. Now, they might be a physical team this season, Brett, because what did they do? They went out and added one of the guys that you and I love, Alex Caruso, who's tough-minded. They went out and added Isaiah Hartenstein, who's tough-minded. So you put those two guys along with Lou Dort, and suddenly Oklahoma City, they're not a finesse team anymore. I think the Pelicans have a lot of questions. I think what Oklahoma City did in the offseason, they answered a lot of things that they needed to answer. They had needs. They filled those needs.
Oh, I love what Oklahoma City did because they now have so many different variations of what they can throw at someone. Like, the thing is, Hartenstein and Chet can play together.
Right, because Chet has the ability to play on the outside. He can shoot. That combination is the exact opposite of the Mobley Allen combination because of Chet's ability to shoot the three and play in space. And I think you're going to see a closing lineup with Chet and Hartenstein in the game, which means even if a guy posts Hartenstein up and gets him deep, Chet's going to be coming from the weak side to block it. Like that those two guys, along with Dort and Alex Caruso, with Shea closing out games. Don't forget, J-Dub can play defense too. Like, I think Oklahoma City had the best offseason of anybody.
And not to mention, if you try to go small on them, they can also close out the game with a really small lineup if they need to. With Chet can cover as much ground and cover any small ball center you want to throw out there.
Right.
Surround him with Jalen Williams, Shea, Lou Dort, and Alex Caruso, and they're still better than you at both sides of the ball.
That's what makes them scary. And I know they're still a young team, but it's very much like we always say, it's a process. They got to the second round and they took a L. It's okay. I think they'll be better this time around. That's why, even though I think Dallas, I love the moves that Dallas made, adding Marshall, adding Clay. I think they both fit. In the West being what it is, I don't know. Even though the Mavs will actually be better, I don't know that they come out of the West. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a lock. I don't look at the Mavericks and go, they're a lock to repeat come out of West. They have a shot, but they're not a lock. The team that I'm most interested in and concerned with actually is the Denver Nuggets. It started, Brett, right after they won their championship. What's the first thing that happened? Money became an issue. They lost their two best bench players. But they were still a very good team because they had such an elite starting five. But that lack of depth, it reared its head in the postseason. Now, this offseason, they lost one of their starting five. KCP's gone. And I thought the Nuggets were going to try to focus on adding to their bench. They're not only weakened on the bench, what are they going to do? Who are they going to get to replace KCP? And I look at Denver. You can always tell me, yes, you have Joker and you have Murray and obviously Porter and Aaron Gordon. But the truth of the matter is, Brett, because of the apron that's coming up, Denver's in a tough spot. They're literally going to have to make a choice, Brett, between Aaron Gordon or Michael Porter Jr. at some point, because that's that's how much cap space either one of them eat up. If they're going to have a more balanced team, it's not like you're going to make Joker take a pay cut. You're not going to make Jamal Murray take a pay cut. It's weird to say, but within the next year or so, that foursome that's left, I think they're going to get split up. They are. It's going to be because of money. They've already lost KCP because of money.
No, absolutely. Cold Art Maker. Hello, welcome to the show. No, I agree. This new CBA is kind of weird when it comes to first apron, second apron, but you're going to see a lot of teams just kind of have to rely more on draft and develop.
Yes.
And that's kind of what the Nuggets are banking on. They're hoping Christian Braun can replace Contavious Caldwell-Pope. They drafted Deron Holmes, who, look out, like we were just mentioning. Maybe MPJ or Aaron Gordon have to go next. Well, there you go. Maybe Deron Holmes is the guy to replace one of them. So
right.
Overall, I think this you're going to see a lot more teams just overall just have to put a lot more focus and just drafting, because now these rookie contracts are like gold.
Agreed. And by the way, is that not why ultimately that the Clippers, who had been a contender, even though they hadn't won anything, I don't think they're a contender anymore with the loss of Paul George. They had to face the reality of the second apron. They could have offered Paul George a max, no question. And really, had they offered it to him, he'd still be a Clipper. They refused. They had a line that they wouldn't go beyond. My only problem with the Clippers with this, and you can disagree with me. If you're gonna lose him, if you've made up your mind you're not going to give him the max, then find a way to get a sign and trade to at least get some kind of value for him in return. He walked for nothing. You got nothing for Paul George in return. That's a killer. You can lose somebody, but to get nothing in return, I mean, that's a double gut shot. I give them credit for going out and getting Derrick Jones because I like Derrick Jones as a player. I think getting Batum back, ultimate glue guy, great veteran, that's a good move for them. Bringing in a guy like Porter, who has a lot of talent, but he comes with baggage. It's one of those, it is a high risk, high reward scenario because he has the kind of talent where he has borderline star talent. The question is, can he focus on basketball and leave his past troubles behind him? If he can, he might be the steal of free agency.
Yeah, I agree with that. At the end of the day, even if you trade Paul George and find a way to even offload him and get like a couple seconds back, which sounds weird, but the value of just getting picks back is you get a big trade exception to go along with it, like the Warriors got with Clay. So even getting picks back or just some value back, whether it be a player, a trade exception, that's something you definitely had to do, and they definitely just whiffed on that hard with Paul George.
Let me ask you a question. Right now, let's assume this is the roster the Clippers are going to have going into next season. I look at the Clippers right now, and I think they might not make the playoffs at all, or at best they're a play-in team. Like, I think that's how significant. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody won't surprise me, like a young Porter Jr. or somebody of that nature. But and I know, we know who Harden is at this stage in his career. Good player, but not the kind of guy that can carry a team no longer. We know what Kawhi is when he's healthy. He's an all-NBA player. But we also know at some point during the season, he won't be healthy. What do you think the Clippers' ceiling is in terms of the playoffs?
Playing. They're a playing team. I was saying that before. I'll say it again. This is going to be a playing team. One of two things is going to happen. Either James Harden and Kawhi Leonard are going to try to play all 82 games, and just like we saw last year, towards the end of the year, they started wearing down. They looked gassed. They were fatigued by the time it got to the playoffs, and it showed. Obviously, Kawhi fell apart, and he couldn't even participate in the playoffs outside of one game, and he didn't look anything like Kawhi Leonard.
Right.
Or the other route where Kawhi Leonard, let's say, and James Harden missed like 15, 20 games. which is also realistic. I think it's more so Kawhi Leonard might miss 15, 20 games. This team isn't built to overcome that. They're not going to be able to do that. So I think whichever route you think happens, where either Kawhi or James Harden running out of gas or Kawhi missing time, I think all roads to them lead to the play-in.
This is an older team too. I want to remind everybody. Like if you look at their roster, top to bottom, you're going to see a lot of numbers that are 30 or older. This is an older basketball team. And I look at Kawhi Leonard, and we can always start the sentence it with, if he's healthy, he's this level of player. I would make the argument that if you want to get the best out of Kawhi Leonard, he shouldn't be your best player. Like you should have moved heaven and earth to try to get somebody who's better than him to where he could play less minutes, and the focus should be on getting him to the finish line healthy. Damn the numbers. I just thought the Clippers invested so much in the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George era. And I'm not even talking about the initial trade, because you brought up a point that I agree with you 100%. If I were in that situation, the season that Kawhi was coming off of, the season that Paul George was coming off of, I would have made the move to get Paul George. I'm not knocking that move at all. Look, ultimately the pairing didn't work, but you can't predict that and I know the NBA health gods, they have their favorites and they have the guys they don't favor as much. It is what it is. But I'm looking at the Clippers now, and I'm talking about the moves that they made since they've been together. I just think they've given up so much draft capital. It's the kind of thing, you said it, we're in an era now where the focus should be more on drafting and developing. It's almost like going old school. And the Clippers have given up so much draft capital. At some point in the Kawhi Leonard era, when it ends, the Clippers are going to be very bad for a good 5-6 years because they have no draft capital.
No, absolutely. And
sorry, Clipper fans.
And I think too, you're gonna start seeing, you're still gonna see your veteran free agents still get signed, but maybe you also start to see the value of these college guys who stay in for 3-4 years start to go up. Because $3 million a year, $5 million to sign a veteran, or I can draft a 23-year-old out of college who's been playing for 4 years. So I'm starting to think that not only are draft picks more valuable, but those guys that got overlooked for years now because they stayed 3-4 years in college, your Dalton Knechts of the world, their value is going to go up because it's cheaper to pay them for 4 years than it will be to sign a Derrick Jones Jr. for 10 million over 3 years, or 10 million a year for 3 years. But yeah, I think you're going to see an uptick in higher aged college players.
Partner, you read my mind. I think we're in the kind of era that people are going to start valuing the 22 and 23-year-old players who are more polished, because they can step right in and be rotation players from the jump. I know, look, there are going to be some young phenoms that come around that are 18 or 19 that you can't pass up on, but everybody's not going to get the phenom. There are 30 teams. Only one person, like the Spurs got Wemby, and then there's everybody else. There's not a Wemby in this draft that we just had. There's some really good players, but there's not a Wemby. I don't think there's a Wemby in the next draft. Like Wemby's, it's like saying, like, all right, who's the guy that came behind Tim Duncan? He wasn't better than him. That's not a knock against that guy. You're going behind Tim Duncan. I just think you're right. I think there's going to be a new terminology, because you're going to call these guys like short timers or something like that, because you come in the league at age 24, you're a 6-year veteran, and you're already 30. My argument would be, I don't care. If I have this kid and he's 24 years old, but he gives me tremendous production, helps me win games, I don't care that 6 years in he's 30. If he's still playing at a high level, I win as far as I'm concerned. So I agree with you 100%. I think more and more you're going to see somebody old. It's weird to say older when you're talking about 23 and 24-year-olds, but when you compare them to 18-year-olds, they are in fact older.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I think that'll be, mostly for contending teams. I still think if you're a team like the Pistons, take a stab at that 18-year-old, see if there's something there.
just take better stabs than the Pistons have so far. Like use something else. Don't use a knife. Use a spear. Something else, because whatever you're stabbing with now, not so good. Although that's not a knock against Cade Cunningham. I think Cade Cunningham actually is the real deal. I think the Jalen Duren kid is the real deal. But I think the bulk of their roster construction is very, very flawed.
I will say, I had to look up his name right before this started because I forgot his name when I was trying to think of it like an hour ago, and it bothered me. They have a new shooting coach, Fred Vinson, came over from the Pelicans. He's one of the more respected shooting coaches around the league. If that man can get the Pistons shooting like average from three, just give him the whole MVP award. Like, not even a vote, just give him the whole award, because that would just be remarkable. Because I think the Pistons have some great prospects. Like, a Stuart Thompson is a great prospect on the defensive end.
I like him as well.
Yep. Ron Holland has a lot of potential. Obviously, we have Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren. The issue is Jaden Ivey can shoot. Cade can shoot sometimes. Then the only other real shooter on there is now Tobias Harris, but like Isaiah Stewart. So the biggest flaw for Detroit, and this is why I love the signing of Fred Vinson. JB Bickerstaff is great too. But if Vincent can get this team shooting, even just league average from three, and give Cade more driving lanes, you're going to see a much better Pistons team than last year. And it's going to be actually probably pretty fun to watch.
I think if Detroit could improve their shooting the way you said with their new shooting coach, it's going to make a big difference. I also think that because they're such a young team, you're looking to see further development from Jalen Duren, Masur. You're expecting to see further development from Cade Cunningham. Like they're so young, and but they do have some incredible prospects. You just hope it all comes together. So I'm talking management. I'm talking JB Bickerstaff, the shooting coach. If it can come together, I think, an improvement for a team like this, the goal should be to make the playoffs. But if they fall short, let's say they have a 40-win team, I still think that's a vast improvement and puts them going in the right direction.
No, absolutely. Because I feel like the pieces are like, they have pieces, but now they got to figure out how to fit them. It's just a really awkward fitting puzzle right now, which, by the way, for anybody who is thinking about Tobias Harris to the Pistons being a really terrible signing, I don't think so. $52 million over 2 years is a lot for Tobias Harris, but they needed to get to that salary floor anyway, so they kind of had to spend money. And free agents aren't really breaking down the doors to come play for the Detroit Pistons. And Tobias Harris is a guy that he has a history in Detroit. He got drafted by Detroit. He had a really good year where I think he put up like 18 and like 8 a game for Detroit. So he has a history. So there could be worse players to overpay. And I think someone like Tobias, he'll be a good vet on that team. He can actually aid in some of these guys' development. So I think I think the contract will look a lot better than people think it will. And it'll mostly be because of what he does behind the scenes.
I look at Tobias Harris and he's an enigma because put him on a really good team, 18 points a game. Put him on a really bad team, 18 points a game. He is consistent in his numbers. So at the end of every season, you can book him from 17, 18 points a game. Now, put him on a bad team, you're going to say he had a good year and he brought them some kind of veteran leadership. That may be so. Put him on a good team, and you're going to say he constantly disappears in the postseason. He's just a unique enigma. He's a good player, but I don't know what his ultimate role is. I think they tried to make him a 3. He wasn't a 3. They tried to make him a 4, which I thought is the perfect role for him, and yet they didn't really use him the way they should have used him. He's one of those kind of guys. You know who I can compare him to, Brett? Here's a good comp, even though their games are different. A good comp for Tobias Harris would be Carlos Boozer.
Ooh, that's fair.
It's a very good comp. You look at the numbers, and here's Boozer, 19 and 12 or 20 and 10. And yet there's something about him where he disappears in the postseason. Or if he's on a bad team, you're like, well, on this bad team, I expect Boozer to put up 28 and 12, and he gives you 20 and 10. Like Carlos Boozer was Tobias Harris before Tobias Harris.
And like we said, that's not a bad thing.
That's not saying he's not a good player.
Yeah.
It's just saying it's a very odd career because I've seen Carlos Boozer have big games against some of the biggest names in basketball, but at the same time, I've seen him look god awful at the biggest moments. And that kind of applies to Tobias Harris. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Honestly, that's a comparison that I would have never thought about, but it makes a ton of sense. Overall, I think he's at the end of the day with Tobias, he's just best fit to kind of be his own guy on a small market. Like him kind of hanging around Detroit, helping the young guys come along. I think that's perfect for him.
You know what will really make him happy? Huh. He needs the Pistons to sign Boban. He needs Boban back.
Oh, please. Honestly, yes. I would love that.
He needs, but you know what? You could look, it's a serious business, the NBA is. I know it is. But it's okay to have fun for your fans. You know what I mean? Like there's some feel-good moments. Boban and Tobias Harris together are like gold. And maybe they would lighten the load a little bit in that locker room because those young men, when you lose as much, it could kind of beat down your spirit a little bit. I think Boban and Tobias Harris exactly what they need.
Oh, speaking of losing a lot of games this year, the Washington Wizards are trying to assemble the worst defense possible. Like, I don't know how else to put it, but Alexander Sarr is coming in, and by far he's going to be the best defensive player on that team. We're talking about a lineup that's going to put out Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, and Jonas Valanciunas. So, and listen, to be clear, Jonas is big, but that has never translated to rim protection for him.
Right.
Like, people shoot better at the rim when Jonas is protecting it. He can grab rebounds, but that's about it.
He's a good player.
Oh, yeah.
On one side of the floor.
Hey, what's up, Kyle? The pool party will never end.
You know what? It's one of those things that when he was in Golden State and he had that role that they had for him, which I thought was perfect for him. You know, Washington looked at Jordan Poole like, if we could get him away from Golden State, this kid is going to be an all-star. And a lot of people was telling me that. They're like, Mo, don't be surprised. Jordan Poole's going to put about 26 points a game, 9 assists. And I was like, have you watched Jordan Poole play? Are we watching the same guy? Everybody has a ceiling and a spot. Jordan Poole is not an all-star. Jordan Poole is never going to be an all-star. It doesn't mean he won't be a very good player. But here's a harsh reality if you're a Washington Wizards fan. If he is one of your two best players, you're a very, very bad team. If he's your fourth best player, you're actually a pretty good team. But if he's winning the top two along with Kyle Kuzma, you're a lottery team. It's as cut and dry as it is. You're a lottery team.
I remember thinking that he could possibly. I thought he was going to at least score 20 a game, and I thought it was possible he's going to score 25 just off the volume of shots he was going to take.
I did too. He killed. Guess what? You know we had that league where we played fantasy basketball, right?
Yeah.
I drafted that guy not because I thought the Wizards were going to be good, but I thought they were going to get stumped every night. But he'd get a lot of garbage points, and he stunk.
No, yeah, and on the bright side for them, I guess Sarr can have all the wiggle room in the world to develop his offensive game. We'll see real quick what he's made out of on that end of the floor.
Fair.
Because that's where all the question marks were for him. His defense is supposed to be elite, but his offense, so I guess we'll see what happens. The one good thing about Jonas, the biggest thing I like about Jonas too, though, is he's going to give Sarr a lot of room to operate inside because Jonas can stretch the floor for him, and Sarr is not a floor spacer.
Yeah, Jonas can shoot a little bit from distance. Look, I'm interested to see what Sarr is. I hope, and I mean this because I'm always rooting for the league to always have a next wave of young stars. I hope he doesn't end up being a right-handed version of James Wiseman. I don't need another one of those. We don't need another James Wiseman. We're good. We've got our quota for the next decade. We're straight.
Say Pacers legend, he just signed there 2 years, $10 million. I'm sorry, but
he was never heard from again.
I'm sorry, but $5 million a year for James Wiseman, you couldn't have got him on the vet minimum.
Right.
How did that work?
You paid $4.5 million too much.
No, like for real, his agent. That was top notch negotiating.
Right, good job. Is his agent Rich Paul?
I don't even think that there probably wasn't even he probably just called the James like just sign it, faxing it over, just sign it, don't even look at it, don't read it, signature, send it right back.
All jokes aside, the one positive thing about the Wiseman signing, I'll say, is this: even though we forget he's been in the league 4 years, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the young man's still only 22 years old. He's incredibly young. If you're going to give an upside to somebody who's underachieved, you can throw in the fact that 4 years into his career, he's still only 22, so he can absolutely improve. But I think the problem with Wiseman, it's not about skill or talent level. It's that thing that you have in your chest. He doesn't have a lot of it.
That's always my issue with James Wiseman. Let me put it, if I think there's a point guard that can maximize James Wiseman, Tyrese Halliburton has the best shot at it, just because of how great he is at finding different passing angles. He can get him the ball in all the right places, make him a great lob threat. But I've watched James Wiseman give up on plays. His motor isn't always great. Right. So I'll give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt, maybe going into maybe a better situation than Detroit. Maybe he gets rejuvenated and finds something.
Fair.
But to me, with Wiseman, it's all about the motor, and that thing seems to die really quickly on him.
Right. But you bring up a great point. The Pacers' style of play is going to give him an opportunity to get a lot of more rim attacks. Look what playing with Hallie in that system did for Obi Toppin. You know what I mean? It unlocked Obi Toppin, and he got rewarded this offseason. I believe the Pacers re-signed him for $60 million. Look, if they can pull that out of James, and again, the talent is there. Like you said, to me, it's a combination of the effort, the engine, and that want to. That if you walk in there with that want to and go at it, the sky's the limit for the young man. But that's something that's already internally built in you. It's either there or it's not there. And right now, he's one of those guys that seems content to be in the league, but not excel in the league. And that's not a good thing.
Well, we might as well talk about the team that seems to be getting a lot of traction for this year. The Orlando Magic. They won the KCP sweepstakes.
They did.
They also re-signed Gary Harris, Mo Wagner. They signed Goga today. Now, I'm just saying, it seems a lot of their moves there are banking on the internal development of Banchero and Wagner.
Yes.
Which, to be fair, right after he was drafted, before his rookie season, I did say he was going to be an MVP of the league. So I've always held him in the high regard. So if he hits the hypes that I think he might, all these moves will pay off. But if he doesn't do that, him or Franz don't take some massive leap into all NBA territory, they're not title contenders. Mo, what do you think about the Magic?
I think you're going to be better by adding a guy like KCP to your roster. I think that he will impact them maybe more in the locker room than on the floor, because they have a lot of guys with similar skill sets. Gary Harris is a 3-and-D guy. He does what KCP does. What's the other young kid that plays defense on their team? It's Suggs. Suggs is very similar. The only difference is he's not consistent at shooting threes, but they have a bunch of guards that do the same thing. And what they don't have a lot of shot creators. KCP is not a shot creator. Neither is Harris. Suggs is not a good shot creator. They don't have shot creation. They have Paolo, who can get his own shot. Wagner, the younger brother, who can get his own shot at times. But as a group, there's a reason why they ranked in the late 20s in offensive efficiency. They don't get a lot of easy baskets. And adding KCP, it only makes them better is if Paolo takes the leap that you think he's going to take. I think he's going to take a leap. I just don't think it's going to be an MVP-like leap. If not, to me, I think you're bringing back the same team. You might be having different names. It's the same team, and if it's the same team, they're probably going to get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. They're a playoff contender. They're not a title contender. There's a difference. So while I think it's a good move for them to add in proven winners and a great 3-and-D guy like KCP, they need shot creation desperately, and they didn't answer that at all.
I will say I think they've handed out a lot of really good contracts. So the one thing I will say is I think the Magic at least have a lot of contracts that could be traded for that in the future. Like I look at all these deals and I don't really see one overpay. Maybe Jonathan Isaac, but that's more so because Jonathan Isaac can't stay on the floor. But like a healthy Jonathan Isaac, if he can stay healthy for an entire year, he's gonna be winning a DPOY. He's that good on the defensive end.
They should have went all in and tried to pursue somebody like Donovan Mitchell. The bottom line is I like Wagner, the younger brother, but he should be your third best player, not your second best player. At least not offensively. They just don't have enough talent offensively to be considered a title contender. They'll be stagnant again because remember, the Knicks got better. The Sixers got better. I expect Milwaukee to be better. So we're talking about the title contenders: Celtics, Sixers, Bucks, Knicks. Everybody after that, those are playoff contenders. The Magic are in the bottom half. They might end up being the 6th seed in the East again. But they just look. I think somebody said it earlier when you guys were talking about this. KCP is a good step. If they make the playoffs again, even if they get knocked out in the first round, it is a progression, right? And that's fair. And I think Paolo's going to be better this year. I can't wait to see what he's going to be the year after this year. Like now I think we're going to talk about Paolo Banchero carrying the Magic not just into the playoffs, but into the next round and so on. The only question is, are they going to provide him with the right firepower at his side? But I like the KCP signing. I'm not arguing against it, but I don't think it's going to be the kind of move that they go, yeah, this is what we need to get past this team or that team. I think it's a good move that's going to turn benefits more in the locker room than on the court.
I'm going to make a prediction right now that if the Cavaliers decide to break up their backcourt, I feel like one of them's going to Orlando. I could see them trading for like Darius Garland.
Well, Garland would be better than any shot creator they have on the perimeter outside of Paolo. Like, think about the guys they have on that team. He's a better natural scorer than any of their guards. It's not even close.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is I feel like they're kind of biding their time because I don't think the shot creator they were looking for was ever going to come. Like the only guy who took a meeting with them was Paul George. He wasn't going to Orlando.
Agreed.
But guys like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland aren't available. But maybe next year, maybe we're looking at Darius Garland being available. Maybe next year we're looking at those guys being available. So,
or maybe somebody gets off to a slow start this year and we're 25, 30 games in and somebody's going, you know what? Let's move this guy, right? Let me ask you something. You're the Orlando Magic. You know you need a shot creator. You know you need somebody that can create baskets and just make things easier for Paolo and Wagner. Would you pursue someone like Darius Garland at a midseason trade?
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, even if I have to give up one of my like if I have to give up like one of my better defenders, Cole Anthony, KCP, I don't think they'll get rid of KCP, but like Gary Harris, something along the words. I still have other guys that can pick up the slack on defense, but on the flip side, after Paulo, the shot creation gets really tough. Like Franz Wagner can kind of do it sometimes against the right matchup.
Right.
But after that, then there really isn't anybody. So if I were Orlando and like Darius Garland or someone of that caliber became available, I would pursue that immediately because I think they almost have too much defense and not enough offense.
That's the scary part. I have there's no doubt in my mind, Brett, that the Orlando Magic will be one of the 3, let's say even 5 best defensive teams in the NBA next year. They will be. But they're going to be in a lot of close games. Sometimes they're going to get now blown out. They just don't have enough firepower around Banchero. Look, if I'm playing Orlando, immediately I'm not letting Banchero play one-on-one. I'm doubling him. I'm going to say, Paolo, you're going to have to get 10 assists tonight because we're not letting you play one-on-one. They've got to find a way to get more shot creation so that they have better floor balance offensively. I think you hit the nail on the head. They have too much defense and not enough offense.
Like I said, Gene, when he got drafted, I said Banchero's going to win an MVP in this league before his rookie year, so I'm high on Banchero. They need shooters. I agree. They need shooters and they need some additional playmaking.
They do desperately.
I think that's coming. I think that's coming in the next year. Unfortunately, I wish I could talk about Milwaukee's free agency, but
throw it out there. Talk about it.
I mean, I don't know how long we can talk about DeLon Wright and Stanley Umade from Detroit. So,
yeah.
Jalen Suggs is a good playmaker. He can facilitate. He's a good playmaker,
but he's not a great shot creator.
I say he's a good passer, but he's not necessarily a great playmaker.
Yeah. I don't think he's a good enough offensive player to break people down consistently. He's not. Look, the funny thing is, you say you don't want to talk about the Bucks off-season acquisition and free agency. You guys did more than we did. Our biggest move was we re-signed Max Christie, 4 years, $32 million. I'm not trying to bang on Max Christie. I'm not. But what I don't understand is he wasn't even in the regular rotation. How did he get a raise? What the hell did he do? He must have been killing this offseason in the rec league. What did Max Christie do to get $32 million? It blows my mind. Now, and look, I'm a fan, and I know he's still a young man. I think he's 20. But unless you're telling me he's made this huge leap where he's going to be one of your top 7 players, you were bidding against yourself. If you had offered him $12 million, you think his agent could have said, no, Max is not going to go for that. He would have took $12 million. Unreal. Rob is a bad GM. He's a bad GM.
With that signing, they're telling me that Max Christie is going to be in the rotation next year. There's no other way to justify it. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to throw him in the rotation next year.
That's the crazy part. I don't either. If you're telling me, Mo, he's going to be in the top 8, he's going to average, let's say, 10 points a game or whatever and give you good defense. I like all of that, how all that sounds. And yet, the way they're talking, they don't seem like he's going to be part of the normal regular rate. If you think he's one of their top 7, then why are you looking for someone to sign still? They have all kind of problems. All kind of the only thing they got right this offseason, Brett, they drafted Dalton Knecht. They got that right. They did one thing really good. They got Knecht.
Gabe Vincent was the signing of the offseason last year. How was year 1?
Hey, I didn't say that. A certain guy whose last name was Henderson said that crazy crap. I didn't say that.
By the way, I do have a prediction to make right now because I want to. Oh yeah, look at that. He referenced it. Remember me arguing with Freddie about Gabe Vincent? A lot of people, because I saw this, I got motivated to think about this one because I saw Perk do it. He was naming his best big threes in the league, and he put Clay, Kyrie, and Luka at the 3rd best big 3 in the league. I think Derek Lively is going to be a more impactful and better player for the Dallas Mavericks than Klay Thompson. I think Klay Thompson brings something of value, but I think Derek Lively is just going to be straight up better than him. It's going to sound weird when you say you're going to look at Klay and go, well, he's averaging 17 a game on 38% shooting. But when you start looking at all the other things like who Klay's guarding or more so not guarding and the lack of playmaking that he provides, I think that Derek Lively is going to be a more impactful player for the Mavericks this year than Klay Thompson.
I think Derek Lively is going to have a good year. I actually think Klay Thompson is going to have a big season for the Mavericks. I think he'll Lively matters because of the rim protection, the rim running, and the rebounding. But I think with Luka and Kyrie, I think Klay's going to put up 18, 19 points a game. I think he's going to shoot 45, 46% from the field, well over 40% from three. When you watch Golden State play now, the last couple of years, Klay wasn't getting a lot of good open looks because they had trouble separating from teams. You're going to be on the floor with Luka and Kyrie. Klay's going to get so many all those bricks that Tim Hardaway Jr. was throwing up. Klay's cashing in on them. I think Klay Thompson is going to be a big sign. I think he's going to make a big difference for the Mavericks. Look, even though I think he makes them better because of the way the West is, I still don't think the Mavericks are getting back to the finals. And I want to throw a team in there that we're not talking about because they didn't play. They weren't in the playoffs last year, not because they weren't a good team. It was because their three best players were all hurt. When the Memphis Grizzlies hit the floor with John Morant, with Desmond Bane, with Jaren Jackson Jr., they just drafted Zach Edey and Marcus Smart. I think Memphis, like I said before, the 8 teams that made the playoffs last year, somebody ain't making the playoffs next year. And it won't be Memphis. Memphis is going to make the playoffs.
I'll say I could see Lively becoming a Bam-like player.
Maybe.
He doesn't have to be exactly like Bam, but I think his playmaking's already starting to really improve. It was improving throughout the playoffs last year. Klay was a terrible signing.
I think Klay was a great signing. I think Klay is going to make a huge difference for the Mavericks. Had they had Klay when they played the Celtics, I don't think Boston. I don't know if Boston is raising up that trophy.
It depends if Klay can be consistent. I think Klay Thompson.
Think about this. Everybody's talking about he didn't have a good year. The man shot 39% from the floor. If the Mavericks had somebody who shot 39% from three, they'd be the NBA champions right now because all they did was blow open catch and three opportunities. Let Klay Thompson shoot 39% from three in a series where Jason Tatum is shooting 31% from the field. Dallas Mavericks would be the NBA champions. And I'm not dissing the Celtics because I think they had a great year. I think they won it outright and earned it. And I still think that they're gold standard in the East. But I think Klay Thompson is underrated. I do. I think all these people that think he's done, I don't think he's done at all. I think he's going somewhere where he knows he's going to get better opportunities and have a real shot to compete for a title.
I think Klay Thompson's knees are done is the issue. My issue isn't going to be him knocking down wide open catch and shoot because I agree. I think he's going to bounce back. I think he's going to be over 40% from three. My concern is what can he give you on defense because he can't guard quicker guards. He can't keep up with most forwards anymore. Like he has to guard bigger, slower forwards because after multiple knee injuries, and it's not his own fault. I mean, he can't do anything about the knee injuries. But they zapped like a lot of his athleticism, and he doesn't really offer much of anything in the playmaking department, which playing with Luka and Kyrie kind of alleviates the need to make an impact on that department. But I'm more worried about when we get defensively. How are you going to fight him and Luka?
I think the same way you play Luka and Kyrie. Kyrie not a great defender either. Look, here's the thing. There's very few teams in the Western Conference that their starting five, everybody in the starting five is a scoring threat. There just aren't. It's just a fact. Like, do you think Klay Thompson could play against the T-Wolves? Absolutely. Absolutely. They got one guy that can grade his own shot. One. Yeah, he can play in that series. Matter of fact, Klay Thompson can guard Cat. You know why? Because Cat's soft. He can guard Cat. Eat Cat alive on the other end because he doesn't play in his space. Look at the Denver Nuggets. You think Klay couldn't play in that series? They just lost KCP. That starting lineup is not even what it was. They have no bench. Like, I just think I get defense matters, but your ability to consistently score matters too. Denver's going to struggle. Who's the pressure release now when you're bottling up Murray and Joker, and there's nobody else? You're saying Porter Jr., you better be on, or you get the Porter Jr. that played versus the Timberwolves who couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Like Aaron Gordon can't shoot. I'm just saying, tell me tell me what series that Klay couldn't play in, because there's not a team that you can tell me that, well, he can't play in them, because every team in the West is flawed, even at the top. So I don't. While people can go, well, he's not the good as defender. Well, Klay was a good defender. I want to remind people, but he wasn't a great defender. He was a good defender. It's not like he made all NBA defense 7 times. He made all NBA defense 1 time. I've seen Klay compete hard in defense and still get eaten alive. I remember when he was at his very best defensively, and Kyrie was destroying him. So Klay Thompson did not make his bones playing defense. He made his bones making big shots when it matters most. If the criticism is going to be, well, I think his knees aren't where they was. Well, it's not like he came into the league with a 40-inch vertical anyway. Like, so he didn't play above the rim. Does he still have one of the quickest releases in the game? Absolutely. Do you think he will benefit from Luka in the post, or Luka at the top of the key, or Kyrie dancing around in an ISO? Absolutely. Do you think Derek Lively and Gabbard are going to catch him on swinging pick and rolls or pick and pops? Absolutely. You think he's not going to make a living on pin downs playing with Luka and Kyrie? Look, I get it. I really do. I'm not saying the Mavs are going to repeat, but I'm saying the move of signing Klay Thompson, the move of adding Marshall, they got better. And then they're gonna have a full season with Gabbard, with TJ Washington. Lively's gonna be a year better. Look, I still think Oklahoma City from a talent standpoint, is the most talented team in the West. I don't ever want to disrespect the team that's got a 3-time MVP, a guy like Jamal Murray. They still have Porter Jr., they still have Aaron Gordon, but they have no depth. And now they have questions in their starting lineup. I think that for once, since I've been watching basketball, Dallas actually got a free agent to come to Dallas who can actually help them win. I believe that. Like, he can't do what Paul George does for the Sixers, but he didn't have to, because he's got Luka and he's got Kyrie. He didn't have to. Klay's got one job. You know the line, you got one job? He got one job. Make shots.
That is something that is kind of nice for Dallas, because historically speaking, they always seem to target the big fish every year in free agency, and they'd always miss out.
Right.
I remember the mid-2010s every year. It's, they're after Dwight Howard. They're after Carmelo Anthony. And they always seemed in the running for every big-name free agent, but they'd always just miss out. So I will say it is nice to actually see a big-time free agent finally want to come to Dallas and be a part of what they're building.
Right. Well, we're the new Mavs. We're the new Mavs. The Lakers offered Klay more money, more years, and he said no. He said no. And don't get me wrong, it's not a shock. It's not one, I didn't see that coming. I absolutely saw that coming. I think what people forget, like Michael Thompson said, his dad, who played for the Lakers, he still calls games for the Lakers. He said that he was disappointed in Klay's decision. But Pops, you have to realize something. Klay, even though him and Steph aren't teammates no more, they share that bond. LeBron is their enemy. They saw him in 4 finals. LeBron broke up their 73-win team, walked them down, beat them at home in a game 7. I didn't know where Klay Thompson was going to land, but I was 1,000% sure he wasn't going to play for the Lakers.
How could the Warriors turn down D'Lo? It could have been a good fit. Can somebody Photoshop D'Lo in a Warriors jersey real quick?
You don't have to Photoshop it. He played for the Warriors already. Don't forget he played for them.
Oh, yeah, they got traded for Andrew Wiggins. Actually worked out for him in the long run.
Right. Guess what? They traded to D'Lo, and they got a championship out of it.
Maybe that's the key for you guys. Just got to trade D'Lo, get a championship out of it. Maybe
can we find somebody to give us D'Lo, that wants D'Lo?
At this point, I don't think so.
Maybe Orlando. They want shot creators, right? They'd take D'Lo.
Really wouldn't. It's funny, but it wouldn't be terrible. If there's a team that could cover up for D'Lo's pretty poor defense, it would be Orlando.
Right? He'd actually be a good fit there, because everybody can defend, except for him.
Call Detroit. Give me a D-Load, Tobias Harris, Cade Cunningham, big three in 2024. Let's go.
I can see that. Poor Cade Cunningham.
He's definitely a tradable piece. By the way, speaking of your Lakers, what does LeBron think you guys need? Because I hear a different player he's willing to take a pay cut for, and it's an insanely different player anytime. Like
they don't make sense.
Right, like it was Clay, then it was PG, and then it's Jonas Valanciunas, and then it's DeMar DeRozan. I'm like, these are like 4 different players you just named. What do the Lakers actually need, LeBron?
Everybody that they wanted, remember, they wanted Harden too. He gone. And now they're like, you know what? Now we're interested in DeMar DeRozan. If I'm DeMar DeRozan, I'm not going to the Lakers.
No, that's fair.
Matter of fact, I actually think if the Clippers could lure him there, getting DeMar DeRozan to go with Derrick Jones and Nicholas Batum, you basically just got Paul George back.
See, I actually think that that was the rumor that LeBron was going to take a pay cut for Jonas Valanciunas.
Right.
And that was the funniest thing ever to me.
Did you see LeBron go on social media and he did that post where he said, maybe it's me? Yeah. It is you. It is you. You're right. It is you.
If I had to pick a LA team for DeMar DeRozan to go to, I think it would be the Clippers, just because JJ came out and said, yeah, we want to pass the ball a lot. We want to shoot a lot of threes. And I'm thinking, like, I like DeMar, but that's like everything that DeMar DeRozan isn't. Like, he doesn't move the ball. And he doesn't shoot a lot of threes.
I will push back on that. The last 7 years, DeMar DeRozan has averaged 5 or more assists a game. That's actually not true. He doesn't shoot threes. A matter of fact, for his career, he averages less than 2 per game. He doesn't shoot threes. You know why he doesn't shoot threes? He doesn't shoot them well. Smart. Unlike Russell Westbrook, who doesn't shoot them well but still shoots them. DeMar knows what he does well. He also does something else well that's a very underrated ability. The man gets to the foul line 8 times a game, which means that even when he's not shooting the ball well, he can generate offense by getting to the foul line. DeMar's a terrific playmaker. I think anybody that thinks he isn't hasn't been watching him. The last 7 seasons, over 5 assists a game. He's actually got 2 seasons where he averaged over 6 assists a game. So I would disagree with the idea that he's not a playmaker. If you want to say his strength is in the mid-range, it is. If you want to say he's a terrific ISO player, he is. But that's not asking him to do anything outside of his ability. You don't have to play him with LeBron or AD. He could be the first guy off the bench, and you could let him cook when LeBron's resting or combo him with AD. Like, I think, remember, they were going to get DeMar DeRozan the last time around. You know who vetoed that? LeBron vetoed that because he wanted Russ. Don't be stupid. Although, actually, if I'm DeMar DeRozan, don't be stupid. Don't go to the Lakers. Don't do that. Don't do that. I think if he's looking to compete and have fun playing basketball, even though not much is expected of him, he would be better off going to the Clippers.
And I will say, with D'Lo, he was a star that played better with LeBron versus without LeBron. With D'Lo, I think he would definitely fit in a better system in like Orlando somewhere. At the end of the day, D'Lo thrives at his best in a system that likes to run a lot of spread, pick and roll, and when you play with LeBron, you're not on the ball as much.
Right.
But if you put the ball in D'Lo's hands and let him run the pick and roll, spread the floor out for him. That's how he made his all-star team in Brooklyn. He was really good when you let him cook in the pick and roll.
That 1 year where he had the offense was around him, he was terrific that season. I give D'Lo a lot of credit. Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, to be fair, Anthony Davis put up great numbers before he became a Laker. He was a 26-12 guy before he became the Lakers. He's a 26-12 guy now, so it's not like his numbers went up with LeBron. He's the same guy. So I would argue with that. It's easy to say when LeBron left Wade wasn't the same player. It wasn't because of LeBron. When LeBron left Wade, anybody that knows basketball knows Wade's knees were shot. He was done. It wasn't because, man, he's no good. I'm no good no more because he was no good no more because his body got old. That had nothing to do with LeBron. Kevin Love got old when he was on the Cavs. That had nothing to do with LeBron. He just got old. Kyrie just played in the finals. LeBron got knocked out in the first round. He looked so clearly. It's not like he's not still the same player. His talent, his ability didn't go down without LeBron. So I would argue on that. What LeBron does is like any other vampire. He ciphers out every last drop of your energy, and then he leaves you when you're just about done. He left Miami when Wade was physically done. He left Cleveland when he saw Kevin Love and he knew he was done. And the only reason he didn't leave Kyrie first is because Kyrie knew he was trying to trade him, and he left him first.
Yeah, I will say that when it comes to Anthony Davis, he was a better player putting up. You could probably say that he was maybe a better player before when he was in New Orleans, but I think that he found his best role playing with a better like playmaker like LeBron, and that's the thing. I think Anthony Davis on a playoff team was always destined to be an off-ball Robin. He's not Batman. But
well, I'm not debating that. I'm just debating the point that Gene made. And let's be clear, it's not Dwayne Wade's fault that LeBron choked when Dwayne Wade was playing at an MVP level. Dwayne Wade, when they were up 2-1, by far was going to win Finals MVP. The man averaged 27, 6, and 6. It's not his fault that dude choked. Dwayne was playing great. It's not his fault LeBron didn't have a sack. You couldn't put that on D Wade.
No, that's fair. That was a tough Mavs defense, but LeBron should have absolutely been better in that series.
Dude, you're playing against an oldest Dirk team. Not that's not even prime Dirk. That wasn't even MVP Dirk. Dirk was 32. 32. Jason Terry was 32. Jason Kidd was 35, 36. Sean Marion, that wasn't the Matrix. That was just Sean. Like, he played against a bunch of washed-up dudes and was scared to death. Here's the thing that you can point out. Yes, LeBron won a title with Wade. LeBron won a title with Kyrie and Love. LeBron won a title with AD. You know what else is consistent? LeBron lost the title with Wade. LeBron lost the title with Bosh. LeBron lost the title with Kyrie. LeBron lost the title with Love. Like, he wins with everybody. He also loses with everybody.
Say Big Z. I love Big Z. But it's so weird to me how many NBA players, like, and a good example was that Miami Heat and LeBron in 2011, how many NBA teams struggled against the zone? Like, you would think at the highest level they'd be able to pick it apart, but the Mavericks busted out a zone a lot, and we've seen a lot of instances since then where high-level NBA teams, they'll struggle to death against the zone defense.
I don't understand it. I don't understand. What I didn't understand is that Dallas got away with having Tyson Chandler. What's that guy's name that hardly ever played in his career? But in that finals, Brian Cardinal got meaningful minutes, and they could not make them pay with those. And Tyson Chandler's a terrific defender, but my point is, when they were on offense, you don't guard Tyson Chandler. You don't have to. You literally don't have to. You don't have to. You got one job with Tyson Chandler: block him out. Like, it was weird to watch that series play out. It was odd that Udonis Haslem, who's physically the same size as LeBron, not nearly the leaper, not stronger than LeBron, guard Dirk. It was odd to see Bosh, who's basically slightly taller than LeBron, but not stronger, not quicker, not the leaper, not even the defender, if you go by who made All-NBA defense. He tried to guard Dirk. You know who never tried to guard Dirk once? The best player on the team who made All-NBA defense. Not one time did he try to guard Dirk. And the guy that he guarded by default, Jason Terry, was lighting him up with jump shot sandwiches. Jason Terry's 6'3". What is your problem, bro? Like, I can't take it. I can't take it. We make a lot of excuses, but he was so bad, so bad. And I give him a lot of credit for what he did against Golden State because he was so great. He was so great in that series. But it was a unique series because they say the signature play is the block shot against Iggy, I believe, right? It's great.
Yeah.
And I don't even disagree that it's the greatest block shot I've ever seen. But that's not the signature play. The signature play is Kyrie coming down and waving everybody off, going, no. I don't need a screen. I got this. And just facing Steph up and hitting that dagger. Because if you watch the rest of that series, it's a bunch of missed shots. Like, I want to remind you, Golden State, the greatest offense ever made or whatever, did not score the last 4 minutes of a home game 7. Steph was shook. Clay was shook. Draymond was nobody. And I mean nobody. Go back and watch it. Nobody wanted the basketball. Nobody. Matter of fact, I'm a J.R. Smith fan. Go back and watch those last 4 minutes. J.R. Smith played some of the best. Nobody talks about it because they look at the moment when for whatever reason Steph couldn't break Kevin Love down off the dribble. But J.R. Smith was locking down that game 7. Like, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, I give credit where credit is due. But when you say, well, what superstar got better when he left? Well, he left everybody when they were washed. He left everybody when they was old. The only one he didn't leave was Kyrie. And it remains to be seen what he's going to do with AD. But I got to assume after we don't win a title this year, even though he's going to sign an extension, he'll probably, if his goal is to win another title, then he's going to leave LA. It's as cut and dry as that. Now, if you tell me he's not trying to win titles anymore and he's just going to work on throwing up all kind of stats and stuff, then stay in LA. Actually, as a Laker fan, get the hell out of LA, bro. Get the hell out. Leave. Go back to Cleveland, stack up numbers there. But as soon as you leave, we can start the rebuild because really all you're doing is keeping us in basketball purgatory.
Kyle says Mo driving to the retirement home waiting for the day LeBron walks through the door. It's funny, though, because...
I'll drive him to the place, man. I will drive him.
It's funny, though, because people kind of try to do the same thing. They're like... Because we saw the same thing these past couple postseasons. Everyone was like, well, why didn't LeBron try to guard Jokic when they played Denver? Because he knew it wouldn't go very well.
I get it. And I know that's why I didn't guard Dirk. I know. I get it. What was that finals they were playing? And KD was lighting everybody up. And late in the game, LeBron was like, Richard Jefferson, you go get some of that.
Iman Shumpert, Richard Jefferson.
Leadership.
To me, that last 4 minutes of 2016 of that Game 7, it shows you exactly why the Warriors needed KD. Everybody says they didn't, but go back and watch the last 4 minutes.
Oh, it's facts.
That kind of shows you why they needed him, because with KD, you didn't have those long stretches. KD was never scared of the moment. He never got shook of the moment, may I say. So to me, that proved, hey, you really did need KD. Harrison Barnes running it back for another year would not have been enough.
And I'll be honest. If they don't go get KD, let's say they take their L, they lick their wounds, and they go, you know what? We're gonna come back. We're gonna be better, and we're gonna get them. If they don't go get KD, LeBron would have won another title because he would have beat their ass again. He would have won another title. And if they don't get nobody, then my guess is he would have been in the finals and he would have won another title. So look, I'm being honest. I'm just being honest. Them adding KD, they literally needed somebody to not neutralize LeBron, but cancel out what LeBron did. And that's exactly what KD did. He canceled out what LeBron did. He canceled out what LeBron did, and he made it more about, okay, now it's Clay, Steph, and Draymond versus Kevin Love and Kyrie. We got this.
I'll say, and of course, if they don't have KD, they probably don't survive the Rockets in 2018. So
they almost didn't survive the Rockets with KD because go back and watch those last 3 games of that series. He was locked down. He wasn't doing anything. They benefited. They benefited from Chris Paul getting hurt, and they benefited from the Rockets. I do believe, and I could be wrong, they missed like 30. How do you miss 30? You can miss threes. 32 threes missed? God damn.
That was impressive. Like, I remember watching those games. I'm like, dude, just shoot a 15-footer. I don't care at this. Go to the rim. Just
Brett, think about this. It was a one possession game and they missed 32 threes. Like get a layup, get an old fashioned and one. Like Golden State was literally ready to choke, and it would have been a massive choke because you'd have been talking about this unbeatable Warriors team because they had KD and they were ready to give it up. It wasn't like Golden State was like, we're going to take Game 7 and dominate them without Chris Paul. Without Chris Paul, one possession game after missing 32 shots or 32 threes. That look, we talk about. I heard you guys talk about luck is involved in winning. There is a degree of luck. Golden State had their share of luck during their run. Honestly, for me, their most impressive title that they won was the one they won against the Celtics. That was impressive to me because I didn't see that one coming. They weren't this juggernaut, and they found a way to gut out a title. That was impressive. The ones with KD, you're supposed to win those, fam. Like if you don't win those, something's really wrong with the universe.
No, absolutely. Well, Mo, that was all I had for today. Is there anything else you wanted to add, sir?
Yeah, I feel better. I think it's very therapeutic to go on LeBron rants from time to time because sometimes it's just good for all of us.
Well, you know what? It is the off season. We'll have plenty of time to go back to the past. We can definitely go on some more LeBron rants in the future.
Well, he's an all-time great player. I don't want people to think I don't respect what he's done. He's an amazing talent. But I do think that your franchise gives up a lot. It gives up a lot. And Genie's there for all of it. He came here with one job. He mission accomplished. He got a title. So you can't say that era wasn't successful. It is because he won a title. But I'm of the opinion that era, in terms of them winning title, that's over. And I'm ready for them to move on and start looking towards the future. And they didn't do that. And they're not going to do that because they're hard-headed. So we'll see.
Yeah, at the end of the day, say what you want about LeBron, but he comes everywhere with the objective to win a title, and everywhere he's gone, he's been able to accomplish that.
He has done that. That's 100% facts.
All righty. Well, everybody who tuned in, we appreciate you. Thank you for checking us out. If you want more And One content, check out the Facebook page. And you can also join the And One Discord if you're into that. There's a link on the Facebook page if you're into Discord. And make sure to check out the gentleman next to me, Mo, tomorrow morning on the morning show, 8 a.m. Central. So,
I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to Brett and I. We always appreciate you guys' support. Make sure you guys check out all the great content we have at the Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you for tuning in to the And One podcast. If you like our content, you can find more on the Wire to Wire Podcast Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Want more And One? Find it on Wire to Wire. Like and share our Facebook page and join the And One Discord. Grab the link to join from our Facebook. Thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful day.